Hey everyone, this is Gary Kayye, and we're coming to you live. We have a special Launch and Learn event this afternoon. We're going to introduce you to a company or an organization called STAGENET, or we'll find out what it is. Platform, I would say, called STAGENET. The world of AV over IP has been mostly focused on two areas up till now. One is broadcast studios, broadcast environments. There's a standard called SMPTE 2110. All the broadcast studios, all the television studios, all do AV over IP uncompressed using SMPTE 2110. On the meeting room, classroom, AV side, we have a couple of a few different manufacturers and one different ecosystem out there that has been promoting AV over IP in 1 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig, and some compatibility, interoperability, but mostly on meeting room applications. And so for a lot of people have been building, classrooms and using AV over IP to simplify signal distribution. However, there hasn't been a platform that has been specifically aimed at live events. So media entertainment production and live events. So you think about, any kind of live event, even in-house production live events, there hasn't been an AV over IP platform that's done that. Well, I'm going to introduce you today to a platform called STAGENET with this Launch and Learn today. So it's kind of setting the stage. Now, 5 different brands got together and they created an ecosystem based on a standard or a proposed standard. So this is not just pulling together disparate AV over IP platforms. There's a proposed standard out there that's based on 2110 known as IPMX. And in the IPMX standard, if it becomes a standard, it gets ratified or it gets passed, then ultimately this platform, STAGENET, would be part of, be using that standard, right? I mean, we'll talk about more about that in detail. So these 5 big brands, I mean, these are not small companies. Matrox, I mean, is an example of a big company out there that have joined forces to create a platform for AV over IP for live events, media entertainment, and production. So we know that single routing distribution can be difficult sometimes, but doing it AV over IP simplifies it quite a bit, but we do have some compatibility issues. Welcome to today's Launch and Learn on STAGENET, the platform specifically for live events. So if you're watching us in Launch, thank you for sticking around. We had some issues with our video platform provider, Vimeo, in keeping the video running properly, and I apologize for that. Unfortunately, we have no control over Vimeo. They're a giant multi-billion-dollar company, and we are a virtual events platform using their video engine. So I apologize for you, but thank you for staying on. Y'all can talk to each other down below on networking, but between my video window and you'll see some poll questions. We would appreciate if you take a few minutes to answer those poll questions, or even seconds, really, to answer those poll questions as they pop up. To the right of my video window here, you're going to actually see a place where you can actually ask me questions or ask our panelists questions. We're actually going to demonstrate this for you too. We're going to explain how this works. We're going to show you some videos. You're going to understand it. If you're watching us on LinkedIn, thanks for joining us, and thanks for hanging in with us. I ask that this be also simultaneously broadcast on LinkedIn because this is a big deal. There's not an AV over IP platform yet that's perfect for live events. So this is it. So as I said, 5 industry manufacturers got together and they created something called STAGENET. So let's roll this video so you understand what you're about to see and about to learn about. That's important because this is going to be a big deal at ISE and Infocom this year.
Today we're going to tell you the story of a new revolutionary solution for IP signal management. It's called STAGENET, and its story is about people like you. The way media is produced is changing rapidly. Today, there's really no way around IP signal management for audio and video. The fact is, audio and video over IP is the future for every kind of event and media production. So what's the challenge exactly? We need a reliable technical solution that we can trust 100%. A system that works easily during setup and operation. And that's flexible enough even for last-minute changes. a solution that is future-proof and based on open standards, which puts you, the user, in the center so that you can use your time for an even better production. We've listened carefully and have met many people who share our conviction. Audio and video over IP must finally become intuitive and reliable, yet be completely flexible. Based on this conviction, 5 industry leaders teamed up together to develop STAGENET. Our system is super easy to use via an intuitive web interface. It configures both the end devices and the switches automatically, monitors their status, and displays possible sources of error in a clear and understandable way. Thanks to STAGENET, you don't have to be a network engineer to work easily with IP signals. This idea has excited everyone involved so much that we're now growing into a real community. Be a part of it and discover what STAGENET can do for you and your individual application needs. STAGENET welcomes you all.
So, I want to welcome on Stefan Ledergerber. Stefan, this was your brainchild, the CEO of Simplexity. This was your brainchild, right?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I guess. You know, over the last few years, we at Simplexity, we have been involved on quite a lot of full IP projects, and they're all nice and working, and, you know, people are happy with it. But what strikes me is actually a lot of these installations, they are kind of, after they're set up, they are left untouched. And because kind of people experience quite a lot of complexity in that technique, and so once it's up and running, they don't want to change it. And then I thought, well, isn't this what IP is about? It's about dynamic. It's about keeping it flexible. You know, if I walk to someone's home, I can just log into the Wi-Fi, start printing, start surfing the web, and so on. Shouldn't this be the experience we should have on audio video over IP as well? So I was basically kind of preaching that around, and we are, in contrast to some other companies here on the call and in STAGENET, we are a small little company in Switzerland, and but actually the message obviously arrived, and we got a lot of resonance. So we started to talk a few people and said to them, you know, why are we not, why aren't you developing something really clever to make IP really simple? That's how it all started.
Well, you got a great name for a company, Simplexity. That's it says exactly what it is, a simplifying complexity. So great branding there. This is not a simple feat. The AV over IP is an emerging market. We don't have a standard yet. Now, we're going to talk about that because you are using something that is a proposed standard, and that's critical for people to understand. But before we get into all that, I want to introduce the rest of our panelists today. So I want to make sure everyone has a chance to meet everyone here so that they understand how this is integrated with companies that are actually kind of competing with each other in some levels, are all joining together to work together to bring together a platform that would serve all of you. First off, Daniel Maloney, who is the technical marketing manager of Matrox. Daniel, how are you?
I'm well, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I want to welcome you to today's Launch and Learn. Had some technical issues getting, nothing more ironic than that, to have technical issues getting AV over the network, over the internet with a platform like Vimeo, but then have technical issues. I mean, that just explains exactly kind of what we're going through here, right? I mean, we're not all in control of everything, but in a live event, there are pieces that you are in control of, and what you're providing here gives you a little glimpse into that. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Matrox has been in the business about 45 years, and video business for 45 years. We're grandparents in the business, and video over IP specifically for about 10 to 12 years. You know, our motto is harness the power of video. And truly, you know, this is why I think, jives well with what STAGENET's way of thinking. Our business is split between end user and OEM and ISV type business. And in the media and entertainment, we've been providing, 2110 or Vivo IP solutions for quite a while to a number of hardware manufacturers going into the broadcast space. And now we're moving into the rAVe or live event space. And, we feel interoperability provides a maximum flexibility to let our clients put together the best of breed solutions. And, StageNet does this to a T. So we're very pleased to be part of the group here.
And we also have Maurice Engler, product manager for emerging technologies. Maurice, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm fine, Gary. Thank you. I'm very fine. I'm Maurice Engler from Emerging Technology. We're based in Switzerland as well, in the middle of Europe. And we're very happy to be part of StageNet and very proud at the same time. We are a 30 years old company, as old as Matrox, but still around for a long time, doing AV products for the professional market for broadcasters, for performing art centers, for music recording, for all types of things. And we moved to the IP area since roughly 12 years ago, where it was still kind of complicated, obviously at the beginning, putting the hands inside and fiddling around loads of things. And within time, we tried ourselves to make it much easier for the user. And this is where StageNet was a very obvious step for us to participate, as this makes it very simple for the user so that he or she can really do dynamically really what they want. And our tools doing it with it without much complexity around it. And so I think this is a very great step forward.
Yeah, and Rehman Leigh, the product specialist at StageNet, our project specialist of StageNet at STAGETEC. Rehman, how are you doing?
Mate, I'm doing very well, thanks.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us where you play in this platform.
Sure. So as you said, my name's Rehman Leigh, and I'm a product specialist at STAGETEC for StageNet. StageTech is a manufacturer in audio solutions, which was founded in Berlin in 1993, and is considered one of the pioneers for professional audio technology for both broadcast and theater. So we provide a range of IP signal solutions for audio interfaces and video interfaces, as well as mixing desks, which require minimal configuration and are ready within a short lead time. So today we recognize that consumption habits are changing pretty quickly. And so we believe that we're rising to the challenge of making these signal management ready for everybody. So we want this available for everyone. For us, audio over IP must be usable for every type of event, transition, and for any manufacturers within sort of a common ecosystem. At StageTech, our promise and goal is to make IP simple.
Yeah, and so you've got that expertise in audio, and I think that it's interesting that these companies are coming together who kind of, compete with each other. ARISTA, there's areas that you compete with Matrox, for example. Gerard Phillips, the systems engineer at ARISTA Networks. How are you doing, Gerard?
Hi, Gary. I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us about ARISTA for those that don't know.
Yeah, so ARISTA Networks is a networking company. We build network switches and routers. We're an industry leader in kind of high performance, high reliability networking, data centers, enterprise campus routing, and of course media and entertainment. So we've been focusing on media and entertainment for quite a while now. We participate with all the standards bodies. We participate at all the interops, and really what we're trying to do is bring cloud grade networking best practice into the media and entertainment world. So we truly believe in making IP simple, and we truly believe in doing that through automation, APIs, making it easy to make things reliable and kind of plug and play. And so by joining StageNet, we are really pretty excited about bringing those kind of world-class capabilities and experiences to the kind of rAVe and multimedia system integration guys around the world. And yeah, just carrying on what we're doing in the data center world, making stuff easy.
So, ultimately, Stefan, what you have here is a bunch of companies that are all playing in the broadcast space pretty heavily, in addition to rAVe space in various ways. And you're bringing about a platform that is saying there's some interoperability between all of these, and we're all focused on one part of the market, which is media entertainment and production for live events. In reality, sort of, how's this going to play out? Like, what is each organization's role, and sort of what's it going to look like?
Well, basically, we believe in community. So, I don't think it's very future-proof that you have one brand doing it all. So we basically share the same convictions, and that's really the point. So we need obviously a kind of a leader to kick it all off, and that's STAGETEC. So they are going to be the commercial responsible organization behind this. But basically, we are an open community, and it's really about, moving things forward. Don't wait. Don't say, the standards are not finalized yet or something like this. Just dig into the usability, put the user in the center, and everything else has to follow. And that's really the common conviction. And everyone else who shares that conviction is absolutely welcome to join.
I think it's interesting because the words and the stuff you're talking about is all about networking, right? I mean, open APIs, cloud-based networking. It's all about, the stuff that's been done in the computer industry for a long time, stuff that's been done in the broadcast world for the last few years. Bringing it down to live events, I think seems easier than it might be, but to have a standard GUI, a graphical user interface for everyone, so that there is some commonality regardless of what you're using behind the scenes. Because let's be honest, ultimately, as long as it works, nobody really cares what you're using behind the scenes, but they want everything to look the same. That's a key part of it. So let's run this second video here, and let's take a look at that, because that's the focus.
Hey, you know how it is. If it comes to IT networks, things can easily get complicated. That's exactly the reason why we invented STAGENET. STAGENET is there to make this complex technology truly easy to use. And I know many manufacturers claim that their products are easy to use, but we believe STAGENET is a true revolution in that respect. STAGENET allows you to connect devices wherever you want, whenever you want, even a few minutes before your media production. We keep those really nice features from IT networks. We keep things dynamic and flexible. If it comes to looking for your signals, which maybe there are thousands, sources, destinations, we actually use paradigms like you're used to from your mobile phones, or from modern websites, from e-commerce stores. It's like looking for the right article. Now you look for your right signals. STAGENET also takes care that you can finally start trusting IP networks. We oversee the switches, the network, we oversee the IP-based devices, and we let you know if things are getting tight or even go wrong. STAGENET furthermore allows you to migrate from traditional installations, such as STAGETEC's audio matrix system Nexus, to the IP world. We control both worlds together, and we completely hide technical details from you as a user. You just deal with sources, destinations, and we do the rest. STAGENET is like a virtual router for audio and video signals. It's actually an ecosystem which grows. It grows in terms of devices we support, but also in terms of use cases. But at all times, STAGENET stays flexible. It's important to know that STAGENET is not a proprietary system. We are fully based on standards. We extend the standards where necessary, but only in order to provide you ease of use and in order to survey the hardware which is present in the system. For instance, the system today is fully based on NMOS ISO4 for device discovery and streaming audio and video using SMPTE 2110 and AES67. So let's have a look at our system today. We have a couple of switches by ARISTA. they are easily able to handle bandwidth from audio and video at the same time. As far as audio devices are concerned, we have a couple of IP devices by Merging Technologies. It's an Anubis loudspeaker controller, as well as a 19-inch rack mount I/O device called Harpy. Then we have a compact I/O box by STAGETEC. We have IP video devices by Matrox. And finally, there's a conventional audio matrix system, Nexus, by STAGETEC. And I will now show you how it's possible to seamlessly interconnect signals between all of these devices and between the old and the new world of IP. No matter whether I connect a microphone to the traditional audio matrix Nexus and listen to it on an IP-based device like Anubis, or whether it's the other way around, or whether I interconnect something within the Nexus or within the IP world. No matter whether I connect video via IP or actually video and audio all together, it's all hidden from you as a user and you don't have to care. Let me give you a brief overview of the STAGENET user interface. The user interface of STAGENET is a web page. It runs on any device without the need to install software or even an app. It has two main views. This one here is the view where we expect users to work most of the time. It's where you connect sources with destinations. It's where you control your microphone preamplifiers and so on. Then there is a second page, which is more for technical personnel. It shows you the physical view of your system. It shows you how the devices are connected to switch and so on. But in everyday life, that's probably not what you want to look at. Other icons show you user preferences. We have an undo-redo button. We have a message center. That's where the system draws your attention if it needs it. Furthermore, there's a monitoring page where you can select any audio and video signal on the network and connect it to your local monitoring setup. You probably get the idea. STAGENET uses your experience from back home, from your mobile phone, from websites you use day by day. And STAGENET transfers those paradigms into a professional application. We use drag and drop, we use pinching in and out, and many other rules and gestures. STAGENET is setting the new standard for the way you interact with an IP signal management system.
Stefan, it's interesting to me because really it looks like what you did was you took a look at some of the best user interfaces in the consumer world and brought them into the professional world. Something that it's a lot of the interactions and the way that you're doing switching is familiar because it's the way that we do a lot of the consumer devices that we might have in our homes and stuff. So there is some familiarity here with this user interface.
Absolutely, and I think that that's exactly the key. It's not necessarily familiar with previous user interfaces in the professional world, whereas a lot of other user interfaces tend to lean towards expert systems. So it's kind of XY panels kind of stuff. We deliberately chose not to do that. We wanted to relate to stuff people are used from their everyday life, from mobile phones and things like this. It's like, as I mentioned in the video, it's like when you use an e-commerce store to find the right article, it actually is very impressive how fast you can find the right article. So that's a paradigm we just use to find the right signals, the right sources, destinations, and stuff like that.
And so do you see, it's interesting because you're obviously in an event like this, you're going to have multiple users at the same time. You're not going to have one, there's always one person that's in charge. You're not going to have one person who's running everything. You're going to have layers of users. Do you have permissions where different people in the event can have different levels of control? And how does all that sort of work together from a back end standpoint?
That's certainly the plan. I mean, what we are up for here is a big thing. We believe it's an elephant. We are we're gonna eat. And so the first bite, the answer is no. You know, we start simple and we just keep the same user interface for everyone. But do we have the plan to implement user rights and all this kind of stuff, and you know, synchronize it with Active Directory and stuff like that? Absolutely, yes. That's on the roadmap. But yes, we are aware, you know, there's a lot of ahead of us. We need to have many more partners and stuff like that. But one thing we don't want to compromise ever is the simplicity, I mean, not Simplexity, it's the simplicity of the operational level and the reliability. So we want to bring it all together and serve it to the user in a user-friendly way.
You picked complementary companies that are collaborating together on this obviously this platform, this ecosystem, whatever we ultimately end up calling it. But obviously, you're going to have a lot of companies that would be in. In fact, if they are interested, you know, you should reach out, because you're looking for more companies to join. You don't want to close this to the group that you have here assembled today. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but you have sort of a part 2 to the user interface that I'd like to show that video, because I think that's important for you to kind of see some of this other stuff, or answer some of the common questions that probably were brought up with that, watching that first video. So let's go ahead and run this second video on the user interface.
Setting up and operating a media network has never been so easy, and actually so much fun. But let's start slow and go along the steps which are necessary, from adding a new device all the way to making your first connections. Any of the supported devices can be connected anywhere in the system, and they will automatically pop up on the STAGENET web UI. The user is notified that one or more devices want to get access to participate in the system. The red Q indicates that the device is currently in quarantine and does not have access to any signals. To make sure this is the case, STAGENET actually configures the IT switch such that no access is possible, supporting well-known IT security practices. Doing switch configuration automatically is actually one of STAGENET's key features. As default, STAGENET will make groups of inputs and outputs of your connected devices. But you as a user, you are invited to change those groups according to your user situation. Such a group of signals may be all vocal microphones, the complete drum set, a specific mix of our program, or just all inputs originating from a specific location. We call such a group virtual sender or receiver, and you can have as many of them as you like. The aim of a virtual sender or receiver is to make your life easy afterwards when connecting signals. A virtual sender will easily be connected to a receiver by a touch of your finger. So let me create a virtual sender here. I select a few inputs, either individually or by swiping across multiple inputs. I give it a meaningful name, may add some tags to it to find them easier later, and I'm ready to go. Again, all these activities are optional, but you will be rewarded later for spending the time. You and your colleagues will be able to search and filter for those names and tags. Now you're ready to make your first connection across the network or within the traditional audio matrix system. Just select the connection page and first search for the content you are interested in. If you are regularly working with lots of sources which connect to only a few destinations, you can optimize your screen space by just moving the divider line as you wish. Now, drag and drop the source content onto a destination, and the STAGENET software will handle the rest. You see the name of the connected source underneath the destination. The play icon underlines that this destination is currently in use, and the source shows the number of destinations connected. Now, let's repeat this with a video signal. You see that the system automatically dims all destinations which are not relevant for this source. Video can only be connected to video, audio only to audio. At this point, you don't care anymore whether you are connecting signals within the traditional audio matrix or within the IP world, or in between them. Watch out! I pick a content which happens to be connected to a traditional Nexus router and connect it to a destination within the same matrix. Now, I connect this same source to a destination which happens to reside in an IP device. Same operation, same behavior. And this is a game changer. And here's your promised reward. Because you declared your content before with meaningful labels and tags, you don't need to care about technical details at all. At this point, you purely operate on a content level and forget about the technical aspects behind it. But what else does STAGENET do to sources and destinations besides connecting them? Well, it also takes care of the most important controls, which are used often. For instance, you can select your source and tweak all microphone preamplifiers at once, or switch on phantom power. You get an easy overview over the levels at this point too. They are allowing you to get an intuitive impression of what's going on. Now we made it all the way from connecting devices to connecting content. STAGENET puts you in the center, not technology. Our promise, IP made simple.
So Stefan, obviously, I mean, there's some familiarity with this user interface, but there's also some big differences. You know, you talked about operating based on content. Can you explain that and where you see the differentiation in your user interface?
Yeah, very happy to do so. The vision behind this is like operating a web browser. When you are entering a link in a web browser, you're just interested to get that content which you are asking for. And you couldn't care less where it's actually coming from, where that server is and how it's called or whatever. You just are interested in the content. And that's kind of the vision here. You give a source destination that name, and that's actually like you are looking, you could look at it like a bookmark on in a website. You press it, and then you get that content across. And so we deliberately want to stay away from talking about channels, talking about devices, and so on. Maybe stuff comes from different devices, and it's still one content, like a video and an audio could come from different devices. So that's where we focus on. That's what we mean by operating on content level.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. So ultimately, where you're getting at, I mean, if we were to fast forward 10 years from now, all this stuff's going to be on the network anyway. We're not going to have separate devices. I mean, we're already that way in the home almost, right? If you look at the typical house, we have either a cable box, a set-top box, or a media player. You know, it might be a Roku or an Apple TV, or it could be whatever, a media player. You have the cable TV or the satellite box. But ultimately, that's just content coming through the box. The box happens to be a player. We don't go and select we're not looking, we don't think about where that content is coming from a box standpoint. We don't even think about it from a channel standpoint. In fact, a lot of us probably don't even know what channels our television programs originated from. We're just watching the content because it's entertaining content. So your vision is that we don't really care where the content is coming from as long as we have a way to identify it and then play it wherever we want it to go. Is that the kind of theory that you have there?
That's absolutely correct. And actually, you know, as such, we don't care which standards are being used underneath. We don't want to go to that level to talk about bits and bytes and how they travel through the network. We purely care about the user experience. So our vision is, if someone wants to connect an NDI source to a 2110 destination one day, we will automatically insert a conversion box in between. The user would not notice it. That's the vision we are aiming for.
Well, you obviously have some tightly integrated companies now that have already kind of bought into your concept and are already part of the STAGENET platform. but you're going to have a lot of other companies that are potential partners, right? I mean, you look at, there's a lot more networking companies out there than ARISTA. There's a lot more video distribution companies out there than Matrox, and so on and so forth. So how do they engage with you, and where do you see this going in the future? Like what is the limitations, and then what is the welcome door? Like, are you rolling out the red carpet for anyone to join, or how's this work?
Well, generally we welcome everyone. That's absolutely true. But we ask them to share that passion and the vision for that simplified user experience, and not to bring across the technical details to the user. That's a must from our side. So in practice, it means that a manufacturer actually should give us access to their APIs, and their APIs should not be just setting up a multicast address or whatever, some technical, let's say, basic stuff. They actually also have to deliver us stuff which helps us, finding out about the status of the machine, seeing whether there's any packets lost or whatever, all these kind of things. And we actually then filter that complex information to a nice user experience. And so we actually want to help building up trust into IP technology. And that's only possible if we really can monitor and control everything. So in other words, STAGENET does not want to just control modules, like IP modules built into some products. We actually want to control the product, the whole product, as you've just seen in the video, including the mic gains or whatever. That's what we want. We want to have it all the way through, and that's kind of that readiness is something we are looking for on all the partners.
Have control over the content. You don't want to just control the product. You want to control the content coming from the product as well, to be able to ensure compatibility and the delivery in addition to all of that. So you want, the API has to be more than just surface level basic control. So by the way, for those of you who are on the Launch platform right now, or LinkedIn, you can ask questions. We already see the questions coming in. We are aggregating those questions. I'm gonna ask the panelists here all of these questions. So keep asking questions, keep posting questions either here or down below in the networking session. We're looking at all of them. Be respectful of the other companies out there. Just because you may not like one company or one product, be respectful, because these companies have come together to try to simplify it for our industry. So please take advantage of this. So I want to set the stage for video number, I guess it'd technically be our fourth video. But this is sort of like a little bit about STAGENET as a platform, I guess is probably the way I would describe this. So let's go ahead and roll this video.
This is really special. STAGENET is all about working with content, not technology. Often, you need to make multiple connections simultaneously, and actually most often, you need to connect video together with its audio. Like on your PC, Mac or smartphone, STAGENET allows you to organize your sources and destinations into folders. Now, it is possible to connect all content within a folder at once, and STAGENET does its magic. Video will get connected to video and audio to audio. And if there are multiple options for audio interconnections, STAGENET will check the given tags and base its routing by matching them as best as possible. In case you're not sure what's in a folder, just look inside. And in case the automated matching didn't work as you expected, feel free to do so manually afterwards. You can operate on all levels and in between them. You can even check which channels are contained within a virtual sender or receiver and shuffle them directly in the connections view. Another cool feature, if you find your labels or tags not optimal yet. STAGENET lets you correct them easily. Even multiple at once. This is just a glimpse of our promise ease of use. Our next important point is reliability and giving the user immediate and, most of all, meaningful feedback about the system state. We constantly monitor traffic and packets on the network. The devices keep telling us if there are packets lost, arriving late, or, unexpectedly, if bandwidth gets tight. All this is indicated right where you need it, on the connections view. If an expert wants to dig into network details, or just wants to check which cables are being used, the system shows the actual physical route the packets are taking. On top of all that, these states are collected in the message center, with a counter like you're used to from your smartphones. As you can see, we are starting a new era of signal management. We keep the dynamics of an IP network and possibly combine it with existing proven technology. It's time to make complex IP technology accessible to non-expert users. STAGENET is plug and play and allows you to change your setup even in the last minute before your media production. We don't want to nail down static configurations that take hours and days to change. Furthermore, STAGENET allows the user to easily gain confidence in this new technology by providing meaningful surveillance of all relevant technical aspects. So, what is STAGENET in a nutshell? IP made simple.
I'm probably going to end up memorizing the IP made simple thing. That's going to be easy to remember. Stefan, I got a question about, I don't really understand what you mean by static configurations.
Well, basically, I think right now there are two types of installations out there. One installation or one type is basically where a control system controls the end devices only. That means basically, controlling some senders, receivers, or whatever. And they assume the network in between is correctly set up and works. And they're pretty flexible, that's okay, but that's one type. Now, the second type is where a control system would really have everything under control, not just the end devices, but including the switches and everything. They know exactly what's going on down to the bits and bytes. But those kind of systems tend to be very static. So they are expert systems. They need to be set up by experts. And once they're set up, you hardly touch them ever. So STAGENET now tries to combine the two. We will control the switches, but we still actually detect where the devices are connected, and we will configure the switch automatically according to what we detect. So we basically combine the best of both worlds.
So are you, okay, that brings up a question from my side. So then theoretically, I get it, because what you're saying is the old way of doing systems, the analog way and even the new digital way, is you have control over the limited, like you're switching inputs and outputs and where to send the signal and turning it on and off, but not what kind of signal it should be sent. So you're saying in this case, we'd have the ability to do that. Does that mean also through STAGENET, you could theoretically, now I'm not saying this is where you are today, but theoretically be able to do upgrades and firmware updates and things like that within the platform as well?
Theoretically, that's absolutely in focus, yes. I mean, again, we are up against a huge task. And again, we are not saying we are redefining the world in terms of standards. That's absolutely not the case. We want to stick to the standards and we use them wherever we can. It's just that we don't want to wait until they are complete to give the real user experience. That's all. That's really all. So we just add that extra mile. And that's why we need actually those specific partners to be in, because we need them to provide us information which is not readily available through the standard interfaces.
Yeah. So, by the way, this is going to make its worldwide. I mean, it's basically making its worldwide debut here on our Launch and Learn today, but it's going to be, you're going to actually be able to see this at ISE and stand 5Q850, by the way. I'll come back and talk about that in just a second. Can I bring everyone back on? Because I want to kind of figure out how everyone fits into the, I want to make sure everyone understands how each company fits into the ecosystem. So Daniel Maloney, technical director with Matrox, tell me exactly what from Matrox is inside of this platform, or what works, and where your future development lies within regards to adopting it.
Sure. So Stefan approached us a few months ago on 2021. We were just introducing our Convert IP lineup of basically ST2110 converters. It wasn't public yet, but Stefan had heard through some of our the committees that he's joined. Maybe you guys could help us and be part of the STAGENET community. And we do, in fact, at NAB this year, we launched first public viewing of our Convert IP 2110 video conversion appliances. These are SDI and HDMI capable converters. They can be transmitters or receivers. They're small. They offer lossless conversion with zero latency, or microseconds of latency between the input and the 2110 output. They're small and fanless, and they offer PoE connectivity, so optional PoE power, great for in Pro AV installations. Installed easily in a rack or behind a monitor. We've got a whole suite of them. Some have multiple network jacks for redundancy. Some are smaller, only have a single network jack, where you can have control and media on separate ports or on a single port. Again, with this flexibility, it offers STAGENET opportunities to install based on requirements. Finally, there's RJ45 connectivity or SFP connectivity, depending on if you're doing uncompressed, truly uncompressed, or possibly our optional compressed compressed models. When we set out to make these products, we really did think, we didn't coin the term IP made simple, but that was certainly our motivation in making these products, and that's why we feel it's such a great fit for STAGENET. So we'll be at ISC as well, and at Infocom. So you can get information at matrox.com, or come see us in person at the show to talk about these products.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is, we can bring everyone back on. Thank you, Daniel. Although Stefan made a really good point, that although in your case, Daniel, you're using IPMX in this particular case, but ultimately, Stefan, correct me if I'm wrong, you're willing to embrace any of the platforms that are network AV over IP. You even mentioned NDI, and as long as they'll give you access to the content and the ability to control it, then you're welcome anybody. You don't really care if they're in any of the platforms that already exist or any of the ecosystems that are custom right now, right?
Absolutely correct. Having said that, we need to start slow, right? We need to start somewhere. So right now, we are limited, or we are just using really AS67, SEMT2110, IPMX, NMOS, that kind of stuff, plus the APIs. We really need deep inside the products. So yes, as you say, we want to stay flexible. It's a lot to do, and that's the vision. You're absolutely correct.
It's an interesting thought, because then that would allow the companies and brands that want to have their own ecosystem still to exist, but still, if IPMX gets adopted as a standard, for example, then it could still have its own sort of like direction. So that's very interesting the way you're looking at it. Maurice, Engler, I'm curious, with merging technologies, where are you playing in the ecosystem right now?
So the thing is that we have an ecosystem that is done of hardware devices such as Horus, Happy, and Anubis, and software platforms such as DAWs like Ovation and Pyramix. And we do drivers that are working on Mac and PC to be able to interconnect our different devices over the network. So this is our ecosystem. We always worked in an ecosystem, but it is open to other DAWs or to other hardware if we want so. And now what we worked on with STAGENET is to already, this is effective today, to have some of our devices, namely Happy Mark II and Anubis, and our merging audio device, so to say the driver that works on Windows 10, both, I mean, all the three, sorry, compatible with StageNet. So they are StageNet ready, so to say. And to go a little bit to explain to argue what Stefan was explaining just before, is that I have a device here, one of those smallest devices we have is the Anubis, and this is at the same time is a mic pre, is a mixer, is a monitoring device, is a commentary box. It does many things at the same time. But as you can configure it on there, at the same time, as Stefan was explaining it, on StageNet page, you will see actually the different configurations. If you create a new source, let's say a second microphone, because we would be two people now, the second microphone or the second input would then appear on StageNet, and this would then be available on there. So yes, you might have to configure it on the device, but that's the user doing it. But then in terms of interconnecting things, it will also appear and be available in the platform to all the other devices on StageNet. So that makes it very interesting in terms of its flexibility and its dynamic change constantly without much maintenance behind it. So we worked on StageNet or with StageNet to implement it. We gave away our API with Happy and Anubis, and the merging audio device is already available. And the VAD and the Horus will come later on, hopefully this year. And yes, as for all the other ones, please come and visit us on our ISE booth starting next week, and we show you around.
And Rehman, thank you very much. That's good understanding. That's what I said. Maurice, thank you very much for doing that. I don't know. I'm hearing different thing in my ear. Thank you, Maurice. We'll see you at ISE for sure. And of course, you'll be in. This whole thing will be shown in the in ISE in the StageNet booth, or stand, I should say, 5Q850. But a lot of these brands have their own stands there as well. So definitely check them out. If you just go to the ISE app, when you download the app, you can search each of these companies. We've heard from Matrox. We've heard from Merging. Now Rehman, Leigh, product specialist at STAGETEC. I'd love to hear how your product plays in the ecosystem specifically.
Sure thing. So since the STAGETEC was founded, it's always been our goal to provide professional audio equipment to the market with a focus on the best possible quality. So our mixing desk, the Countess, was one of the first digital mixing desks on the market for both broadcast and theater. However, we now offer a variety of desks, which include our latest edition, the Vitus. This desk is a fully IP-based control surface and is available in sort of multiple configurations and screen modules. So we also produce a modular routing system called Nexus, which provides a flexible audio routing solution for analog, digital, and IP needs. This constantly is being growing. Excuse me. This is constantly being developed and grown, and is used internationally amongst broadcasters, theaters, sport locations, and sort of other public organizations. Nexus was even awarded an Engineering Emmy Award. StageNet for us is a logical evolution of Nexus. And this is why we believe that it's a great effort to ensure that StageNet is realized as a team effort of these 5 industry leaders here with us today.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you want to say something else? Did you? I know you're going to be at ISE as well, right?
This is correct, yeah.
Do you know your stand number by chance off the top of your head?
I believe it's the one you've already mentioned.
So you're going to be in the exclusively in the StageNet stand. Okay, that's correct. 5Q850. And Gerard Phillips, the systems engineer for ARISTA Networks. Gerard, thanks for standing by. Obviously, we know what network switches and routers do, but why don't you talk about specifically, like, do you have a line of products that are specifically, compatible with StageNet, or does it matter?
That is a great question. No, pretty much everything is compatible. All of our switches are designed to be incredibly standards compliant, incredibly really good APIs, so great access to the configuration of the switches and to the telemetry. We provide streaming telemetry, so it's kind of near real time. This is the stuff that Stefan's talking about, the ability to kind of configure the switches and to understand what the status of the network is. Zero touch provisioning across the range, so the software stack can build the network, it can understand what's on the network, it can see what it's connected to, it can configure the network as needed. So there's kind of none of your normal kind of technician needing to leap onto a switch and type a load of funny gibberish commands. That's all done as part of the STAGENET software layer, right? So this is exactly the stuff that ARISTA Networks loves. It's providing quality, simplicity, reliability, flexibility. At ARISTA, we'd call this SDN, software-defined networking, right? It's taking the complexity out of the network by automating it. So clever stuff encoded into the software layers. No, any of the switches that we sell will work fine in this environment. We've got a range of campus switches, and they tend to be PoE enabled. They tend to be lower cost. They work really well in this environment, fanless, small, whatever you feel like. So yeah, what we're bringing is a lot of experience from our kind of 2110 developments and deployments. We spend a lot of time working through the standards there and on IPMX, and the natural progression is to, having got the transport sorted, is to simplify the user experience and just make it easy for people. So that's what we're bringing.
Excellent. And I want to bring everyone back on, Stefan. Your vision was great, and you've assembled a good sort of founders team, I guess you'd say, of brands that believe in what you're doing. And I think it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see how this plays out. And I think it could play out pretty quickly because you've got a pretty good system put together here, and you're going to learn a lot by getting people to start playing around with the software and using it and starting building systems around it. I think, and you've learned a lot from what's been done in broadcast as well. So I'm curious if I can ask some questions from the audience, and you tell me who to shoot that question to. Some of them are kind of related. Chris Wildforster asked the question about how do you compare with Dante, and is there a licensing fee? Because obviously this, Dante's, the big leader in network audio right now, although not a standard, certainly been adopted by over 350 companies, almost 400 companies out there. How does this compare, and how does the licensing fee compare?
Yeah, I take that myself, I guess. So first of all, yes, we learn from everyone, including Dante as well. So I guess the difference is that, first of all, we control the network as well, not just the end devices. That's one of the things, definitely. And a second one is actually we do not stop at the modules. We actually go all the way for the most important functionality, which we believe are part of the signal path, such as microphone preamplifiers or whatever. So there's a difference there. Now, if you ask about licensing fees, yes, there will be licenses because the business model behind STAGENET has logically to be a different one than the one from Audinate, because we do not sell hardware, right? So yes, there will be a license fee per connected node, per controlled device, basically. And we really hope it's gonna work out that people are starting to be ready and willing to pay for software, because otherwise we do not get that user experience.
I find that very interesting because it is different. I find the comment that you do not make hardware very interesting because for a while, Audinate, Dante didn't make hardware either. And originally they were just the platform, but you're right, they do have hardware now. So what I'm hearing you saying is that that's not part of the ecosystem, that you want to partner with all the hardware companies out there and have them build the hardware for the platform. Another question that's very related was, I want to make sure I word it the way that she worded it. Let's see here. Gosh, there's so many questions. Let me think. Okay, so Felix Krunkles asks, which protocols are used in registration, connection, and management? Is it all NMOS based or your own new products?
So thanks, Felix, for the question. We do start with NMOS, obviously. So for right now, all the discovery and registration is using exclusively right now ISO 4 NMOS. Yes. What happens afterwards? Yes, we do use other NMOS standards as well, but, and here comes the but, we like and we need to set up senders, receivers, devices in all kinds of details. And as much as we really love NMOS and any other protocols, they are not giving us that. So right now, our answer is just jump onto custom APIs and do it there. So again, user first. Everything else has to follow.
Okay, Dieter Michael asked the question. I think I know the answer to this, but I want to hear I want you to say it the way that you think it should be said. Is STAGENET more like a user interface thing, or does it take care of all the necessary details of an interconnection down to the hardware level? For example, if I want to send the audio signal from a Nexus-based device to some IP destination, I will need some glue or some individual hardware piece or driver to do this with the software. Would STAGENET supply this?
Yes, the answer is yes, yes, yes to everything. So basically, that's exactly the key. I think what we see here, what we show as a user interface, as much as I'm totally passionate about user interfaces, and those who know me, they know that, this is just the tip of the iceberg of STAGENET. So the real thing happens behind the curtains, behind what you see on the GUI. So yes, absolutely, we do know these systems. We do connect, within the Nexus. So if a source and a destination happens to be within a Nexus, like the traditional audio matrix, we stay in there and we just do connections, like because there's no need to involve IP there, right? It's both in one box. But if there is a destination outside, then we do that as well. And yes, we set up the IP modules, we set up the streams, we set up the multicast addresses, we set up the number of channels needed, and so on. So that's all that happening in the background. So it's a small step for the user, but it's actually a big step in the background.
So give me your best case scenario of exactly what kind of individual control you'd like over individual devices. This is one of the questions that came up. Like if you had a best case scenario, like a wish list of control, what are all the layers? I mean, you said specifically you want more than just control of the device. You want the APIs, but what are the layers of that you would love to have?
Well, it's about the information we want to have, right? I mean, first of all, we want to have some access on the whole signal path from the beginning to the end. That's first of all. So it doesn't stop at the module. We want internal matrix control. We want mic preamp control, whatever, all that kind of stuff. If there's a level on a loudspeaker output, for instance, we want control over that level as well. Everything related to the signal path, first of all. But on top of that, we want to be able to change that signal path the way we need it. So that means, stream formats and stuff like that. You probably remember in the videos, we have that virtual senders and virtual receivers kind of thing. And so we use that information the user gives us, that these channels belong together in a contextual thing, in an applicational way. We use that information to then technically generate streams on the fly beneath everything. And finally, we absolutely want telemetry. We want status information. We want to know whether things are working, and not just, connect something and trust. So these are the kind of things we actually look for in the products.
Okay, so last question is, do you have a published price for what this software license is going to be like yet, or is this still something you're trying to figure out and it all depends on what they want to do with it?
No, not a published. What we can say is it depends on the product connected. So, we try to keep the whole thing scalable, also in terms of pricing on the license. So if you're connecting a small little box, for a few dollars, then you pay less than when you're connecting a whole Nexus system. Yeah, that I can definitely say, yes.
Got it. That makes sense. And since this is all software, you have a lot of future expandability and a lot of scalability as part of this. I've been honored to be part of this first launch and learn to launch the STAGENET concept for the platform. I think it's got a lot of potential. I think there's a lot of people that, I think ISE is going to be a great coming out party for you, but I also think a lot of people should share this video and this piece that we just shot to your colleagues In fact, if you want to see this recording this afternoon, we will roll up this entire recording and put it back on the same page you're on now if you're on Launch. If you're not on Launch, all you have to do is go to launch.com, lavnch.com. Go to the on-demand section. Or if you're on LinkedIn, as soon as we finish this broadcast, it will stay on LinkedIn on my feed. So you can actually go and share this broadcast from my LinkedIn feed in real time. I would encourage you to do that. We will be sharing it to the ISE page because this is going to make its debut at ISE. And I would encourage you to do that because this is, there's no denying, everyone in the industry knows that the future of our industry is AV over IP. And what these gentlemen have put together, these companies have put together, is nothing short of amazing considering that the platform is so young. Stefan, congratulations. You assembled a great group. Daniel, Maurice, Rehman, Gerard, and of course, Stefan again. Thank you very much for doing this. I want to thank everyone for joining us today on this StageNet Launch and Learn. As I said just a minute ago, all of this will be wrapped up and posted back on this website exactly where you are now. If you're on Launch, come back to this page. You'll see it this afternoon. Or if you're on LinkedIn, you can share this recording. It takes about 10, 15 seconds for LinkedIn to sort of end the recording, and then it'll just be there as a full post, just like what you're watching on now. You can click the share button, and you can share it immediately, actually, anywhere you want to share it. You can also forward it and send it as a message to all your friends. Thank you for joining me today. This is Gary Kayye. I look forward to seeing you all at ISE, and do not forget to put on your ISE plan stand 5Q850. I'll be going by there for sure, 5Q850, and you can see the StageNet platform there. Everyone have a great day. Thanks for joining us, and join them on social media. Easy to find, stagenet.com. StageNet on social media. Just search StageNet on all the different social platforms. Everyone, thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.